following is an interview I had with artist RetsofNoraa. You might know him for works such as these. I hope you enjoyed the video. Out of all the cartoons you have choice to create art for, why do you choose My Life as a Teenage Robot?
There are a couple of reasons for that, but mainly it comes from my love for the show when I was a high school student. It came out when I was a freshman, so it was the perfect timing for me. I found myself really relating a lot to the characters, like every other fan, and I found drawing them a great outlet for myself. And the fact that it was canceled before it could be properly finished left a pretty big void that could only be filled by whatever fans had in their imaginations, and mine is about as hyperactive as they can be.
That's a very good answer, which brings me to my next question. When did you first watch My Life's Teenage Robot? Or what's your earliest memory of watching it?
To be perfectly frank, I didn't get into the show right away. At the time I first saw it, I was one of those, you boys can't watch girls shows kind of kids, but when I did start, I quickly realized that it wasn't geared specifically toward one gender or another. And I remember Rob talked a bit about that, saying that wound up being a problem for the show in terms of merchandising. I remember that the first episode I watched on TV was Unlicensed Flying Object, because of the opening where it's just silence except for Tuck's imitation of motor sounds. And it was really attention-grabbing. I was also a fan of Samurai Jack during its first run, so I had a big appreciation of cartoons that took a different approach to their presentation. Now, it was pretty big. It was pretty much an instant hook, so I kept coming back for it as much as I could.
I was the same. When I was younger, I pretty much ignored Teenage Robot completely because it had girly situations in some episodes. Once you get to high school, that's when you truly appreciate the brilliance of the show. And yes, Samurai Jack's revival is amazing so far. What do you think about the fan-made revival of My Life as a Teenage Robot? Obviously, we don't have much to go by, but from what you can see right now, what do you think of it?
That's the real problem. I can't say either way until I see something beyond the trailer. Now, the fact that it's taken so long to make even one episode is pretty bad news. But they're not professionals, and they're still, no doubt, trying their hardest. And I shouldn't be one to talk about deadlines, since my first 8-page comic took over 3 years to finish. Now, Nathan's certainly got talent, as do many of the other members of the team. The trailer looks pretty interesting, but as far as I know, no one on the team has experience working in an environment like that. Now, some people have asked if I'm involved, and apart from being a member on their forums, the answer is no. I personally enjoy having control over what I make, and that probably wouldn't mesh well with the reboot. It's Nathan's project, and it'd be unfair to him if I were making power plays for Control. Now, the only exception to this would be if I were asked to work on a fully canon reboot, a spin-off, or some other official property related to the show. And Nathan has emphasized several times that it's not an official property. Overall, though, I'll be looking forward to seeing whatever they work on. Animation in this fandom is pretty rare, so it'll be neat to see what a fan-produced version will be.
Yeah, I actually have very similar concerns. The truth about it is some fans are passionate and try their best, but they just don't have the talent to do the job. Something I usually bring up when talking to the reboot crew is how hard it'd be to get somebody to replace Eartha Kitt. In my opinion, it would be way better for them to write her off than it would be for them to have somebody do a bad impression of Vexus. I'll try to make my concerns vocal so they have a little bit of advice.
Well, I don't necessarily know about that. There are people who make a lot of money doing impressions, and Eartha Kitt was even replaced in Around the World in 80 Pieces by Cree Summer, and that was while she was still alive. Now, the problem with this is how much quality you can get with a crew that neither has the experience nor the budget of the original show.
That's absolutely true. This question's more serious. Have you ever been talked down to or bullied for liking My Life's Teenage Robot?
I can't honestly say that I have. I was pretty public about my love for the show, to the point where, in retrospect, it was pretty embarrassing, but I can't say that it was a factor in bullying. Some people even drew with me, despite the honestly terrible quality of my art at the time. The worst I ever got were people not recognizing the character and thinking Jenny was some kind of rabbit. And that was pretty infuriating. Now, the odd thing is that a lot of my perception of how people felt about me at that time was merely projection from myself. I had always suffered from a serious amount of self-loathing, which is pretty dangerous during puberty when your mind is forming patterns that can get cemented in later life. So, in my case, the only real bullying I can say I got at that time was from myself.
I know what you mean. If you had one thing to say to fans who are being bullied for liking the show or drawing characters from it, what would it be?
Don't let anyone else define you. Anything and everything that they say will go away with time. And when you look back in a month or two on the stuff that seems like it hurts now, you'll realize just how inconsequential the bullies and the things they say are.
Well said. How long does it take for you to create a piece of art in comparison to the time that takes you to make an animation or a comic?
I am honestly really bad at keeping track of how long it takes me to make things, mainly because all too often I'm distracted by something else and don't get as much time to devote to my art as I want. I should take some time to actually keep track, but this is a rough estimate. Now, a simple Jenny pose will take about a half an hour. Animation loops will take a few hours, depending mostly on the complexity of the background and movements. And comic pages are by far the toughest to produce, taking several nights to make. That's mostly due to the amount of characters that I have to make for each page, the amount of different backgrounds, and so on and so forth.
That's interesting. That's also the first time that I've seen that drawing. Great job yet again. How do you feel about being featured in art showcase videos? Has your art ever been featured in other videos before that?
I don't think it has happened before, and I'm honored to have been featured.
I'm sure more of your work will end up being featured in the future. If you make it, I'll post it. Do you feel like your art is appreciated? Do you think that it inspires anybody to try to draw or to rewatch the show?
I've actually had several people message me and say how they've been inspired to watch the show again or draw fan art of it, and it's amazing every time. Part of me keeps thinking, that's not how it's supposed to work. I'm supposed to be the fan, not to have any. In terms of general attention, things could be a little better, but I at least know that there are people out there who enjoy it, and that they are exactly the right people.
In the fan base, you have a lot of fans. When I told them I was interviewing you, a few of them said, "No way!" And I love Retsy's work.
It's still really hard for me to grasp the reality of that sometimes. I appreciate every single comment, like, favorite, whatever show of recognition that they give, because it really shows me that I'm not alone in loving this show the way that I do.
Trust me, you aren't alone. In your opinion, what was your greatest struggle as an artist?
That would be learning that I had to improve. In the beginning, I would draw something on paper, scan it, and consider it done enough to post on my DA page. And occasionally I would color it in, but it wouldn't be any good because the drawing itself sucked very, very badly. I rationalized this by saying that sketches were beautiful in their own right, and they are, but my sketches weren't. I was getting comfortable with where I was, which is never advisable for any serious artist. In order to get good, you have to have a goal to aspire to. Now, in my case, I've made it on model accuracy to the original show. Some people may say I've accomplished that, but for me, the quality feels like it varies from piece to piece. But each one is still a step closer to where I want it to be.
Oh yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Having a goal in mind for where you want to be is very important when it comes to being an artist. Obviously, this paid off for you. If you had to choose one piece of art as your favorite, what would it be?
Now, I did 2 Draw Me Agains, and the second one is kind of up there in the ranks because it's such a successful translation of what I was hoping to draw at the time I did the first one. And then I was able to go back and draw one of the most accurate Jennies I've ever put to paper. In terms of overall, though, I think I have to go with the Rise animated loop I did back in 2013. It encompasses a lot of the emotions I feel when I think of the show and what it could have been, in the seriousness of the situation and the hope conveyed through the posing and light. There are a couple of pieces that I occasionally look back to and think, I made this, and that's one of them.
That's probably one of your most popular pieces. I like the cancellation one you did too.
I've noticed that Cancel gets a lot of attention, and while the storytelling and emotional aspects of it are pretty successful, I feel I could have done better with it artistically, and the concept itself feels slightly heavy-handed in retrospect.
I think that you did a great job at capturing the emotions of fans.
That is true, but in retrospect it puts the situation in too hopeless of a light. while an official reboot or full-length movie of the show is out of question, I think it's possible for Nickelodeon to consider making some other adaptation of it, namely in comic form. That's one of the reasons why I'm working on more of my own comics. I want to get good enough at it to maybe get some involvement in it, should that decision be made to make something officially.
Do you ever feel like moving on from drawing and trying something else?
Well, I've never thought of giving up drawing completely, but I've had other ideas that I wouldn't mind trying. I have a silly dream of conquering all mediums in the name of XJ9, but just because I want to pursue other things doesn't mean I'm going to give up on the thing I know I've gotten better at. Still, I'd love to try my hand at 3D modeling sometime, and I'd even like to someday make my own game. There was a small group I used to work with who were planning to make an RPG out of it, but sadly that quickly folded.
That's actually really cool. How far along did the RPG get?
One of our members made a basic prototype of it in RPG Maker, and that's as far as it got.
Ah, cool idea nonetheless. If you had to pick one of your favorite fan artists, who would you choose?
I've been in this fandom for so long, and I've seen so many, that there are way too many to choose from. A couple of ones that I can think of off the top of my head. DWXJ9 and Kusiya Sokolokova, they both do a great job of combining the characters with their own cultural influences. And Neon Juma and Zero's work has gotten pretty amazing over the years. Now, I also have to thank you for recently featuring my best friend in your video, too. She goes by the name of Synthetic Animals, and she doesn't get a lot of exposure, but all of the art that she shares with me, related to the show or not, is too good to keep away. So I'm glad that she got some exposure from that. Glibribs and Mir also have their own fantastic styles, and they put their focus on characters that aren't so commonly featured in fan art. Glibribs does Jeremy, and Mir does Vega. In terms of old artists, Coyote Loon is also deeply missed by me, since I was around when he was originally posting his incredibly creative art. He has one of the few tolerable OCs of this fandom in general, and not only that, but he's also a very skilled writer. So I hope wherever he is, he's happy and doing something that he loves. But there's one artist in particular that I can think of that I would most deeply like to return to drawing fan art, and that is Yo Yoshinari. When I found out that the creator of Little Witch Academia is also a fan of My Life as a Teenage Robot, my heart just leapt. It pains me that he wasn't able to make his own anime version, but you never know. Maybe someday that'll change.
Wow, I actually didn't know about Yoshinari, but his style is really cool. Kisuyosha and DWXJ9 are definitely some of my favorite artists too. If anyone, who inspires you to draw?
Well, if it weren't for Rob Renzetti, I don't know where I'd be, so I pretty much owe it all to him.
A lot of us are the same way. He's such an inspiration, and he's so humble too.
His autographs are the most prized things I own. I still hope to meet him someday, but he's as reclusive as Bigfoot.
Oh wow, you have his autograph? That's so cool. Alright, here's the final question. In the future, would you like your content to continue to be shown off in the fanbase? In art showcases, fan comics, and more?
Absolutely. The more people that see my work, the better. So there'd be no point in doing what I do if nobody saw it.
Well, Retsy, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close this off?
Thanks for having me. This was pretty fun, and I look forward to giving everyone more great art to enjoy. Progress on the next page of my comic has started, so I hope to get that done as soon as I can. Anyone interested in following my art can follow me on DeviantArt, Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram.